Good morning, everybody. My name is David Jackson, and on behalf of the Boone and Blowing Rock Chambers of Commerce and the Watauga Economic Development Commission, we would like to welcome you to the 8th annual High Country Economic Kickoff Luncheon. You can clap if you'd like. We're at an award show, so we gotta get you warmed up. We're excited to have so many of our High Country business leaders here with us once again. Many of you may remember we started this 8 years ago up at Appalachian Ski Mountain in the snow cloud room. There were about 72 of us all huddled up in there, and the weather was just like this. I was joking with Edward Henson earlier. We do Chamber of Commerce weather in the winter too, and we have stimulated the local economy once again. You can pretty much bank on the fact that it will snow the day of or the day after this event every year. So when you're out on the slopes this weekend, know that we did our part, okay? I would like to recognize Peak Insurance as our title sponsor once again this year, and you'll be hearing from Chuck Eiler here in just a few minutes. Additional support for this year's event has come from 444 Construction, Appalachian Commercial Real Estate, Allen Wealth Management, DMJPS, Frontier Natural Gas, and Skyline National Bank. We'd also like to thank those of you that secured corporate tables for this year's event, and those businesses include Blue Ridge Realty and Investments, Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute, ECRS, Elk River Consulting Company, Life Store Bank and Insurance, Mass General Store, Maltox, and Skyline Skybest. In addition to hearing remarks today from our three presenters, we're also excited to present our 2023 Watauga County Business of the Year Awards. And we thank Carolina Mountain Title for their continued commitment to help us with all of those stories and all of those worthy honorees. Our community remains resilient. We know that we've been through our share of adventures these last 4 years, and while challenges remain ahead of us, the spirit shown by High Country businesses, leaders, residents, the spirit of support for one another, that has helped our community weather the storm over the economic turbulence that we've expected, and we have honestly come out in much better shape than some of the communities around us or even statewide. Our hope is that today's information can give you some helpful insight, reset the context of where we are as a community, where the thought leaders think we're going to go in the next few months and years ahead from an economic perspective. But most importantly, I hope that today provides you some genuine, grounded hope that if we continue to work together, if our community leaders find ways to partner rather than pester, our region rallies around one another, and we can continue to lead with that mindset as we move into the bulk of 2024. Now, at this time, I would like to welcome one of the true thought leaders of our community. His own business is transformed into one of the fastest growing independent insurance agencies in the state. Despite now his almost constant travels, he still finds time to offer our community support through a role on the Boone Chambers Foundation Board, providing wisdom, advice, and plenty of insights. Please join me in welcoming the CEO of First Security, Peak Insurance Group, and Miller Insurance Agency, Mr. Chuck Eiler.
Thank you, David. I always look forward to this event. It's great to see all your faces again. Harry, I want you to know that we haven't made our annual budget yet. I'm waiting on your economic outlook so we can see how much money we can spend. No pressure on that. David, thank you for allowing us to sponsor. I assume the check is in the mail. We do, it better be, right? David mentioned a couple of things. We've been through some challenges. And I think everyone feels that, but yet we still seem remarkably resilient and strong, and particularly, I think, in the High Country, because we have some unique attributes to where we live, work, and play that make us more resilient and make us able to come together. And to that point, something that obviously you guys know me, so I've been very busy. David mentioned partnership, and we have chosen to partner with some of the other insurance agencies in the High Country, and that has been remarkable. I know that we all compete, and each of you compete in your respective industries, but I think this economy really, really calls us to get creative and see what we can do if we came together and weren't just one or individuals. Obviously, last year when I stood on this stage, we talked about how we partnered our agency with First Security agency out of Hickory, and my good friend Jesse Miller, who's not able to be here today. His better half is here, thank God. Lindsay's over there. And so that was one thing that happened. And more recently, we actually just partnered also with Miller Insurance Agency out of West Jefferson. So when you see these three agencies right now, we are one. And the carriers that we've been able to access, the talent that we have in our agency, really gives us strength in a challenging economy and a challenging time. And I want you guys to consider that. So my challenge for you today is going to be not who can you compete with, but who could you partner with in your industry. We all have great relationships. We live in a small community, and this is kind of where the economy is headed right now. I really think there are still partnerships out there for each of you to be had if you really sat and thought about who in this room today could make me better, could make me stronger, could help us weather this storm of whatever the changing economic forecast is. And I know Harry will share more about what's going on in the future and give us his crystal ball, but there will always be challenges. There will always be challenges. There will always be unique challenges. And I am always grateful for those because it gives you an opportunity to really figure out how to get creative and come out on the other side. And so that's how I've always done it, and I'm excited to announce just the latest, and there'll be even more coming this year. And so as David gives me opportunities and microphones, which he hates doing, I'll continue sharing all the good things that we're up to. We're here to support you. We love our community. We're happy that insurance is a part of it when bad things happen, that we can be here to be a part of your lives and put things back together. David, thank you so much.
Chuck, as long as your check clears, man, you can come back and speak anytime. All right. It is time for us now to present the 2023 Watauga County Businesses of the Year. These nominations were submitted by Chamber and community members, with winners selected with assistance from our Chamber's Business Development Committee. Organizations were awarded based on the criteria that I will now give you. That's staying power, growth in sales and/or workforce, innovative products and services, and strong response to adversity, contributions to community-oriented projects, and the use of local resources in business operations. As I mentioned a moment ago, Carolina Mountain Title is proudly serving as the sponsor of our awards once again this year. And to assist with our presentation and to share a few words with us, please welcome Lindsay Ennis.
Good morning. My name is Lindsay Ennis, and I am a title agent with Carolina Mountain Title. We're excited to be here today as sponsors of the 2023 Business of the Year Awards. First, I'd like to give you just a little bit of information about who we are and what we do, and why it was important for us to be a part of these awards. Carolina Mountain Title is a locally owned and operated small business. We have 4 full-time employees. And we issue title insurance. The end. No, I'm just kidding. For those of you unfamiliar with that, basically, if you buy a home or if you buy a commercial property or if you refinance, it is very likely that you will get title insurance. We work really closely with lenders and attorneys. We assist with any title issues that may arise during the closing process, and at the end of the day, we ensure that you have clear and marketable title to your property. We insure residential properties, homes, condos, townhomes, vacant land, new construction, but we've also insured many of the commercial properties here in Boone, including the Standard, Skyline Terrace, the new school in Valley Crucis, and even this building here in the new construction for App State. We offer a very specific product, and since we are in a very specific industry, we have relied heavily on the support of other local businesses to build our base. Without the support of the attorneys that we've worked with in the past or the banks that we've worked for, Carolina Mountain Title would not be where it is today, and we are blessed to be celebrating 15 years in business this year. In the same token of what Mr. Eiler was speaking to, that's why it's so important for us to sponsor these awards. We know what it means to have the support and encouragement of other business owners. We know the value of getting those referrals, and we're happy to be here today acknowledging and celebrating these businesses that bring such an eclectic mix of products and services to our community. So with that, I'd like to say congratulations from Carolina Mountain Title, and I'll turn it back over to David to present the awards. Thanks.
All right, we'd like to start this presentation by recognizing our 2023 Startup Business of the Year. Established in 2021, Mountain Elite All-Star Cheer and Tumbling offers low-commitment tumbling classes for every age and skill level, as well as all-star cheer teams that train year-round. Those athletes are involved in the high country community, they perform locally, and compete regionally. Over the last year, Mountain Elite has nearly doubled their roster of athletes, with 68 girls and boys that practice 2 to 6 hours each week and then travel to compete on weekends. There are an additional 60 students that come in once a week for tumbling classes or private instruction. With their growth has come the need for additional staff. What started as a team of just 2 coaches has now grown to 12 coaches and tumbling instructors, with the support of a volunteer parent committee that helps manage all of those details and logistics. In 2023, Mountain Elite implemented more community service aspects to their scheduled events. Their athletes have participated in parades, they've hosted donation drives for local organizations, wrote and delivered Christmas cards to a local senior living center. Before competitions, Mountain Elite athletes write messages of encouragement and motivation to hand out to other teams. The steady growth of Mountain Elite over the last 2 years has provided the opportunity for athletes to become comfortable with movements that instill confidence in them as that will serve a variety of aspects of their life. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in congratulating the 2023 Watauga County Startup Business of the Year, Mountain Elite All-Star Cheer and Tumbling.
Wow, so thank you so very much. A little nervous, actually. I wrote this down and then left it in the car. So, when I started Mountain Elite, I figured it would be a fun side hustle to keep me doing what I loved, and I really never imagined that it would grow so much so quickly. It really means a lot to me to see a group of mostly young girls discover an athletic activity that didn't exist in Boone before and really learn to love it as much as I have growing up. They become stronger, disciplined, build relationships, and it's just so much more than cheerleading. So again, thank you first to the Chamber. I'm very grateful to know each of you that work there. You guys are amazing, and am astonished by the support of this community and other small businesses and large businesses as a whole. Outside of Mountain Elite, I actually work right here with Grandview Catering and Events at App State, so I'm thankful to them as well, especially with their help in planning this event. All of that being said, I obviously do not do this by myself. My coaching staff has grown, and I'm super fortunate. These young ladies are at the gym with our athletes hours on weeknights, weekends, and making sure that things run smoothly so that I can be home sometimes with my 2-year-old and my super supportive husband who encourages me to do anything and everything that I want with this business. Lastly, we've built something that can be a big commitment to families and their friends and their supporters. So I'm very, very thankful to our cheer and tumbling parents and their siblings and their neighbors and their friends who come out and support these kids and just keep all of this going. So cheers to doubling enrollment again next year, and thank you again so very much.
I think after the holidays, we might need some adult tumbling classes, maybe to help us. If you can line that up, Mandy, that'll get that enrollment doubled for sure. The 2023 Large Business of the Year was founded in Maryland back in 1986 and later settled right here into these beautiful Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. Maltox is a leading manufacturer of products used in genetic toxicology, industrial microbiology, environmental biology, and molecular biology, all sure classes that you took while you were in high school. Maltox works with some of the largest and most respected scientific companies and universities in the world. In 2023, a quarter of their customers resided on the Fortune 500 list. Maltox products are used by 7 of the 8 recognized Ivy League schools, and this Boone-based business works directly with 8 of the top 10 pharmaceutical companies in the world. In 2023, Maltox assisted customers in 16 countries and reached many more through their network of 17 global distributors around the world in the pursuit of testing, research, and development. Maltox brings benefits from being a well-established and reputable brand in the industry, producing high-quality products with a commitment to work with partners to meet their evolving needs. As evidenced through their long-term commitment to their clients, Maltox just wrapped up its best year ever, with sales increasing over 25% over the previous year. Like many businesses, Maltox benefits directly from a dedicated staff. Nearly half of their team has been with the company for more than 10 years. In 2023, Maltox implemented an employee matching program for charitable giving to 501c3 organizations that are located in or provide services right here in the High Country. Maltox made monetary donations to over a dozen local charitable organizations within the past year. Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in congratulating our 2023 Large Business of the Year for Watauga County, Maltox.
Thank you, David, for that wonderful introduction. On behalf of Molecular Toxicology, we would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the chamber members for this great honor of recognition. And really, I can think of no better place to do business in and raise our families. So thank you all so much. A special thank you to our founder, Dr. John Rendell, for recognizing the need to provide these very important products to the scientific community for the health and safety of humanity. Thank you, Dr. John. And a big warm thank you to the president of our company, whose leadership and commitment to our staff, our company, and our community is truly inspiring. You taught us that no one benefits from he who stands apart from his community. So thank you, Kristen. Last but most important, to our incredibly hardworking and amazing staff. None of this would be possible without you, and really there's no words to thank you enough for what you do every day. The international community really has no idea how hard you work for them right here in Boone, North Carolina. And I know it feels like you just go to work and you're just pumping out the daily grind, but your efforts silently impact the world. And we are so grateful for your dedication and commitment to our team. And I am so proud to be a member of our Maltox family with you. This award belongs to you. Thank you, guys.
Our 2023 Small Business of the Year produces a wide array of steels for the knife making and EDC industry. Baker Forge and Tool makes custom-designed mosaic Damascus and Sanmai billets to industry-leading copper mine and bronze mine. I don't know what that means. I'm just going to be honest with you, all right? They make some really cool stuff, okay? All right. Created from Forge's power hammers, hydraulic presses, I do know what that means. Right here in the High Country, Baker Forge consistently develops new patterns and equipment to aid in the craft of forging steel into an art form that's unlike any other. In 2023, Baker Forge and Tool launched 3 subsidiary companies to both assist their operations and to expand to new product markets. Across the company, they have surpassed 6,200 units sold while developing dozens of new, innovative steel fusions. Being a popular industry player has seen the establishment of a worldwide following, with over 112,000 fans, followers, and customers across social media platforms. Established in 2019, the quick growth of Baker Forge and Tool has led to needed physical changes for the company. Last year, they moved from a 3,000 square foot shop to a new 10,000 square foot facility, helping add more than a dozen heavy machines with over 50 tons of new forging machinery to their arsenal. In 2023, Baker Forge and Tool hired and provided skilled training to 5 new employees, which nearly doubled the size of their staff. The company's footprint continues to grow, and Baker Forge and Tool anticipates adding 3 to 4 new employees in the coming year. Please join us in recognizing our 2023 Watauga County Small Business of the Year, Baker Forge and Tool.
Yes, there's a lot of big terminology when it comes to what we do. But down at the base of everything, we make laminated steels through hot forging processes. Similar to how a blacksmith would forge a knife, we make laminated materials out of carbon steels mixed with copper, bronze, that sort of thing. And so we started this back in 2019. I was in my garage, and we were just a hobby, nothing professional. And I was just sharing what I was doing on social media. And that started to catch on and develop into a customer base who started wanting products from us, and kind of grew to where we are now here in the high country with a fairly large operation. We've got about a dozen employees, and it's been a real honor to grow this sort of a business. I won't get too in nitty-gritty into the technical aspect of everything we do there. It's kind of a lot to explain, a lot of science stuff. But I wanted to thank my wife. She actually nominated us, and I didn't even really notice that. She told me, and I kind of forgot about it. And then we got a message from David saying that we won the Small Business Award, and I was shocked. So very grateful. Thank you so much to the Chamber and everybody in the high country. Thank you.
See, I told you, just like he said, really cool stuff. As we celebrate the success of our 2023 winners, there is one more business with us today that was just recently recognized with a prestigious statewide award late in 2023. So please join me now in welcoming Kevin Ellis. He is the managing editor of Business North Carolina magazine for a special presentation. Thank you, Kevin.
I'll just stay here, and as y'all know, I don't have to tell you that small business is the backbone of our economy in this state, and Business North Carolina truly appreciates getting into smaller communities. Not all the businesses occurring in Raleigh or Charlotte or Greensboro, but there's businesses all over the place. I met Matt and Casey when we presented this award at Chapel Hill just a few weeks before Christmas, and was just delighted. I was lucky enough to sit at their table and talk to them a little bit and get to know them. So I would like to present this award to them now. This is, I think, the 23rd year that we have presented these awards. I should have brought more copies of the magazine, but I did bring a couple, so there you go.
Just want to say thank you. It's an honor. It's an honor to be in this room with all these people. Thank the Chamber and David for putting this on is a huge deal, and so they do such an awesome job. And thank God, thank my beautiful wife who is always pushing me and making sure I'm staying straight. And thank you for people I go to work with like Bethany who make sure I'm here on time. So thank you. It's truly an honor.
Greetings from Skyline National Bank. It's wonderful to see everyone out today and to hear all the great stories from our Business of the Year recipients. Thank you to both the Boone Area and Blowing Rock Chambers of Commerce for hosting this special event. When I got into community banking, it was because I saw how good bankers could work with local businesses to build stronger community. 25 years later, it's still what motivates me. That's why I'm proud to work for Skyline National Bank. In the community banking world, institutions like Skyline National Bank are becoming more and more unique. We open our doors 124 years ago, just 40 miles north in Independence, Virginia. We proudly served our community through 22 different presidents, war, peace, pandemics, economic depression, and times of tremendous growth. We believe that what we do is more than just meeting needs and growing businesses. Doing good and being our best elevates our community. We stand behind you, deliver our best service, provide solutions, and stay close for the outcomes. We make those highly personal investments that are really outside of everything you'd expect from a bank. We're excited to be moving into our new branch on Highway 321 this year. I hope you all can come by and visit with Mark and Tweety and the rest of our Boone bankers, either at our current office on Boone Heights Drive or after the move at the new location. Now to the stage, I'd like to introduce Charles Harden from the Blowing Rock Area Chamber of Commerce.
Thank you, and I would like to express a welcome to all of you to this event again this year from our board of directors, and we have 548 members over in Blowing Rock. Many of you are members there as well. We have been a proud part of this event since its inception 8 years ago, and it's hard to believe, as David mentioned, we first started out up at Appalachian Ski Mountain until we outgrew that room. We had Dr. Davis up there, and it went well the first year, and so we decided to invite him back for a second year, and he still had good things to say the second year. It didn't depress anybody, so we went on to a third year. But at any rate, 8 years later, we're still doing this, and we're so proud to be a part of it. I usually take an opportunity to do a shameless plug for our event coming up. Of course, many of you, since you live here, you know about Winterfest. This year will be January 25th through the 28th. I hope that you will come over and participate in some of the festivities that we offer. If you didn't get tickets to Winter Feast, I'm sorry to tell you it sold out last week. But other than that, Friday night you might come over. It's a free event Friday night to go stroll down Main Street and see all the beautiful ice sculptures in front of the stores. That's good. On Saturday, we start out in Chatola Lake. Many of you know, how many of you have ever jumped in that lake? Yeah, look at that. We have some. That's great. I did as well in year 2000. I always say it's okay to jump once, but if you jump twice in that lake, you're crazy. So, but we have between 130 and 150 people that do that every year. So those slots are available. Come jump for a good cause to benefit Hunger and Health Coalition and the High Country Caregivers. After that, get out of that lake, and it is very cold, I will say. Come on over into town. We have a chili cook-off. It's a lot of fun, sampling chilies from 12 or 15 restaurants supporting local nonprofits. If you haven't had enough then, you can go to the beer garden and or a wine tasting that we have later in the day on Saturday over at Green Park Inn. So come over and join us. On Sunday, we also have a pet show called Winter Paws. So it's not one of those like you see on television. This is a very fun pet show. We have lots of cute categories, best dressed pet for dog. The dog that looks the most like its owner. I think that one's really cool. And you'd be surprised how closely some of these dogs look to their owners. That's sponsored by the Hunger and Health Coalition this year. They're putting that event on, so we're excited about that. I want to thank, first of all, today, all of you who've eaten. David and I are, I think, the only two that haven't. But I want to thank the Grandview staff. Let's give the Grandview staff a big hand. And I also want to thank App State's Conference and Event Services who run this facility and produce this event. They just do an outstanding job, so thank you very much. So at this time, I'd like to introduce James Miller, who is the founder and president of Appalachian Commercial Real Estate, to introduce our first speaker.
Well, Well, good afternoon. I think we're close enough. One minute to go. I told Chuck Eiler yesterday that I always like this event because I strive to be just like him and try and do it without a pre-written speech. And so here's my stab at it today. Appalachian Commercial Real Estate provides commercial real estate sales, leasing, consulting, and appraisal services here in the High Country area. I told Harry right before lunch, I can't speak for him, but I know what I told you last year happened to be correct, and I have one data point to prove it. I think I said that the transactional volume would be down. Most of you know that we track a lot of the commercial real estate sales data for Watauga County. In 2022 is a little over or right at $139.5 million. I think we closed the year at roughly close to 88 million, and that's going to be a reduction of about 36.5%. So obviously there's less commercial real estate activity happening. Building permit value, so the town of Boone just came out with their annual permit report. That is somewhat stable. They just moved to a new system in how they do their reporting, so I'm not going to throw them under the bus as I usually do. This is an outlook, and so, you know, I was thinking about what is going to happen in our community, the future of commercial real estate in the upcoming year, and I'm sure that Harry will speak to this, but, you know, in my mind, there are two paths, and it all has to involve with our interest rate market right now. One path is the interest rates need to go up, and so there is complete failure in the market. And I don't say that lightly. I say that because we have to hit a bottom somewhere. We have to get pricing to come down in some way, shape, or form. Or the other path is we get interest rates down to a level where people will start borrowing money again, because obviously where they're at now, people aren't too excited about borrowing money. There's still plenty of activity happening in the local market. We did very well this past year with commercial leasing, a lot of businesses just trying to find the right space in the community. David asked me to speak on the importance of supporting small businesses with specialized training, leadership development, and professional resources. And all of those words remind me of one organization and one organization only, and that's our Boone Area Chamber of Commerce. That organization is doing all those things and more, and I've had the joy to be part of Watauga Leadership Institute, both of their classes. They're being offered by Jim Street. It's given me the opportunity to learn a whole lot more about you as business leaders and this community. I think that we have businesses that are doing really cool and exciting things, supporting their employees, whether it's Mass General Store's ESOP program or JSA's wellness initiative. We're finding creative ways to support one of the most important aspects of our businesses, which is labor, right? And the people that we serve day in, day out with. It is my great honor to introduce Lindsay Sullivan. Lindsay is a health strategist with App Healthcare, and she is going to come up and discuss Stable Workplaces Initiative. Please welcome Lindsay.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Lindsay Sullivan. I'm the health strategist, which is a very loaded name for my role. I work with our community health programs to address what we call social determinants or social drivers of health. So back in 2019, App Healthcare was selected to partner with George Washington University, APHA, and NACCHO as what's called a resilience catalyst site to push forward initiatives that address childhood adversity. One of App Healthcare's focus areas for that project was employment, because we know that economic stability leads to improved health outcomes for families. Stable Workplaces stems partially from that project, although conversations have been happening for a long time. STABLE stands for Staff Training and Business Leadership for Evolving Workplaces, and it's an initiative driven by over 16 months of focused conversation between local agencies and local businesses and employers on how to collaborate toward more resources in the workplace. Part of that conversation has included population trends and the connection to labor shortages, and the concept of hidden talent or pools of talent that aren't being utilized. We recognize a clear connection between the known recruitment and retention challenges employers are facing and the resources that could offset those challenges that we know are out there. We are fortunate in Watauga County in that there are many groups that can contribute resources to the workplace on a wide range of topics. Some examples that come to mind are Oasis, providing training to bartenders around recognizing and reacting to instances of sexual harassment and assault. Another example would be Mediation and Restorative Justice Center's efforts towards recovery-friendly workplaces, or local groups and experts that can guide folks on how to navigate healthcare coverage or file their taxes. With that being said, just as a personal anecdote, my husband is a restaurant owner. I worked in the service industry for a long time. It's really challenging to engage restaurant staff and leadership because of the hours. Not to mention the fact that, as many of you know, small business owners in particular hold many hats. One minute they are working on the ground with their staff, the next they are acting as HR, the next they are navigating finances. Not every employer can take advantage of training and resources in the traditional way. So we have to go further than content. We have to know the barriers for employers to engage in that content and to implement it. So our focus became removing those barriers. For example, if a local bar is interested in training with Oasis and also getting trained in administering naloxone in the case of an overdose, we can coordinate that on the back end between our two agencies to make sure they're getting both at the same time with minimal planning on their part. Or perhaps local business can't offer traditional benefits, but with our assistance can better support their staff by offering leave options or knowing where they can refer staff for affordable health care. We essentially want to be a one-stop shop for folks when a question comes up that they just aren't sure who to ask, or when a need arises that feels outside of their scope or their training. You reach out to one person, and that person does the rest of the work to get you answers. At the same time, we want to recognize the businesses that are utilizing these resources and participating in trainings through a comprehensive, locally baked designation that employers can show in their applications that say, "We are STABLE certified." This helps employers to set themselves apart to potential applicants by showing their commitment to having a supportive workplace setting. With all the work that has gone into the development of this program, I'm very excited to share we are nearing launch, and I invite and encourage you all to stay tuned. There will be more updates and announcements in the coming week. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Joe Nash, and I'm a tax manager here in the Boone office of DMJPS. James Young of Skyline National Bank, who you heard earlier, asked me a question when I sat down at the table. He said, "So what's the tax forecast for this year?" And in line with Dr. Davis's presentation, I'll share a little bit. There has not been a lot of change on the legislative front for taxes, so that is good news for the year. That means that it's predictable and businesses can bet on the current legislation, current law for this coming year. We don't see a lot in the pipeline changing. I will note one thing. For those of you who are looking to buy things, assets right now, bonus depreciation did go down to 60% this year for 2024, and it will continue to step down 20% each year until it goes away, unless they change the law. So if you're looking to purchase assets and you're not eligible for Section 179 expensing, then I would take advantage of bonus depreciation while you can. So that's a little tax technical talk, but I'd also like to recognize some great colleagues that are here with me. Sitting over here at table 9, J.P. Samsil, Courtney Miller, and Katie Turner. We are excited to be here with you and to meet you and to learn more about you. We are just a small office of DMJPS. DMJPS is a tax assurance and advisory firm with about 170 professionals across 7 locations in North Carolina. With our footprint and expertise, we are uniquely positioned to help individuals and privately held businesses in North Carolina and across many different industries. One of our guiding principles is to be greater, and we strive in all that we do to help our people and our clients and our communities be greater. And it is in that spirit that we're joining with the Boone Chamber of Commerce and Blowing Rock Chamber of Commerce today, and excited to present the next speaker to you. Our next presenter is Gary Salamido. Gary is the president and CEO of the North Carolina Chamber of Commerce. With more than 30 years of experience and a proven track record representing North Carolina business interests at the North Carolina General Assembly, Gary led the Chamber's lobbying, advocacy, and political efforts before being named the Chief Operating Officer in 2018, and then the President and CEO in 2019. Gary's leadership in advancing policy at the NC Chamber has helped propel the state to the top of a number of best in business rankings. Prior to joining the NC Chamber in 2011, Gary worked 19 years at GlaxoSmithKline, the last 10 years serving as GSK's Director of State Government Affairs. Gary's advocacy responsibilities spanned a broad range of issues, including corporate tax, environmental impact, tort and liability reform, economic development, workforce development, employment, and Medicaid. Gary's previous work experience includes serving as a senior account manager, integrated healthcare markets for GSK, and as a director of professional and state government affairs for Glaxo Wellcome. He obtained his Bachelor of Science degree in pharmacy from Albany College of Pharmacy in Albany, New York, and a master's degree in pharmacy administration from the University of Texas at Austin. Gary has experience in hospital and community pharmacy practice and completed the American Pharmacists Association Foundation's Executive Residency in Association Management, which trains individuals for leadership positions within the profession and in national, regional, state, and local professional organizations. Gary resides in Cary, North Carolina with his wife, Lisa. They are the proud parents of a daughter and son-in-law, both NC State graduates, a son who is an Appalachian State University alumnus, and a daughter who graduated from NC State University and now attends graduate school at George Mason University. They have 2 grandchildren and a dachshund named Hugo. Please join me in welcoming Gary.
Hello, everyone. It's good to be back on the mountain. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. Thank you to David and Charles and Boone and Blowing Rock Chambers, not only for the opportunity today, but what for you do every day. And thanks to the folks in this room for what you do every day, because working together, businesses of all sizes with their public sector representatives and counterparts create communities, and they create private sector jobs that give communities the resources to invest in the things that they need to invest in. So it's really a great privilege to be here today. Being back on the mountain is great. We came here when my son was 12 years old with an Indian Guides, and we went to a football game, and he decided that day he was going to come here. The mountain got in him that day, even though we were frozen solid because it was a November game. I'm from upstate New York. I knew what we were getting into, but he didn't. But the mountain got in him because it's a special place. And so thank you for what you do to not only create jobs and to serve your communities, but to create a really special place for people. So I got a short time here today. I'm gonna warm up the crowd for Harry because he's got all the real tidbits that we need. We were together last week, and he's gonna see if I say the same thing, and I'm gonna see if he says the same thing that we talked about last week. North Carolina is a special place, and it's intentional. The reason we're here and the reason our state is enjoying broad-based recognition, we got a lot of work to do in places yet, we all know that. It was intentional. It was a lot of people, a lot of businesses, a lot of public sector, a lot of elected officials working together to say, we know where we are and we know where we want to be. How did we get there? How are we going to do it? And what are the challenges that we have to face together and have relationships and hard discussions to get there? So for the elected officials in the audience, thank you. It was courageous to do what had to be done. For the businesses, it was courageous, all sizes. And for all those folks that serve in our communities in a public capacity, it was courageous. We could have just said, we can't do it, but that's not what North Carolina's about, right? To be rather than to seem. Folks take it real serious here, and so thank you with that. I'm gonna go through some stuff, happy to get it over to Harry as quickly as possible and look forward to any questions. So vision and mission. For us, the statewide Chamber of Commerce, we have great relationships with our local chambers. Those are the folks that keep us honest, but our vision is really, we want the best state for private sector job growth. That's the fuel that feeds communities. That's the fuel that allows us to invest in healthcare, that allows us to invest in education, that allows us to invest in infrastructure with it. We do it in 4 ways: research, develop, communicate, and advocate for those policies and initiatives that keep us competitive. That's what we're about. I get the great privilege of representing the collective voices of businesses of all sizes across North Carolina, and they have a plan, and they know where they want to go, and they know how to execute on it, and really an exciting place to be. So how do we do it? Real quick, it's no one thing. I think when you hear folks around the country say, well, what's the one thing to do? You gotta do a lot of things, right? So we have a foundation, which is a C3, which is funded by all private entities that just looks at long-term policy stuff and does research and initiatives and gives data to our decision makers and our policy makers about what makes us competitive. We have an advocacy arm, we have a political arm, and we have a legal institute for advocacy in the courts. All of that works together in order to make sure that there's balance and predictability for our businesses. So where were we and how did we get here, and why are we doing what we're doing? Well, back in 2010, the business community came together and said, what are we working on, what is good, and where do we want to be, and what are the things that we need to do to change and advocate for? And together, together with our public sector and our volunteer leadership and our elected officials at all levels, we set out on an agenda that included 1-year increments of taking on the biggest challenges of where we were and where we wanted to be. And in 2022, we got our first recognition for that effort. It's been a constant piece. 2023, we got our second recognition by CNBC. No state has ever three-peated. It's never happened. And CNBC is an interesting piece, and the reason that that's important is we don't have any input into it. Nobody does. They don't ask you to submit an application. They just evaluate you on what you're doing. And a bunch of different dimensions, and you can go online and see what those dimensions are with it. And they keep you honest. And by the way, you know, they're not asking you for anything, and you can't buy it. You got to earn it. And we've earned it twice in a row, and we're going for the three-peat because of the people in this room and in communities all across our state. So areas of focus. Again, you have to be able to do all three of these and the things that are in all three of these. There's no one silver bullet to having your state be as competitive for retention and growth of private sector jobs as North Carolina has been. And I'll briefly touch on each of these, but you can get everything right in your competitive business climate, and we're doing that really well. We're making strategic infrastructure investments, road, rails, water, ports, sewer, information technology, broadband. The key to sustainability and continuing to win, as you all know, is talent and aligned education and workforce systems going forward. So you have to do all three of those together. If we're going to stay on top, it's going to be the education, workforce systems, K-12, community colleges, public and private universities, all looking at what the opportunities for our young people and our adult learners are in the future, and how do we align all of that, and continuing to do that so that we do that better than any place else. Staying on our competitive business climate and making sure that the gains we've made, we hold, and we continue to look around and stay competitive on those costs that go into a job. Tax liability reforms, workers' compensation, healthcare, continuing to look at all those and say, how do we continue to innovate and be competitive with the rest of the country, and infrastructure and growth. We've seen a tremendous growth in our state, tremendous growth, and we've made visionary and courageous decisions to diversify how we pay for infrastructure investment, and we need to keep doing more of it going forward, because we can't wait till all the people get here, right? They're coming. We've got a great diversity of climate. We've got a great diversity of communities. We've got a competitive business climate, great universities, community college systems, and we've got a lot going for us. So people are coming. They're coming here without jobs because of everything. They know they can find one, but we got to invest in that infrastructure before they get here. Otherwise, we're going to look and feel like states that we've all visited that we love and communities, but we stay in cars and in traffic way too long. And then we worry about our bridges, and that maybe we don't have the water and sewer infrastructure in place that we need to attract more businesses and to attract more communities and build more communities. So those are the three pillars that we are constantly developing one-year plans from a long-term vision on to keep us competitive. Just a few things, not going to go through these, a few of the press releases that come about where we are and the diversity of the issues that we take. I think the key here is that you'll see that it's balanced. There's different issues. You have to be able to work on them together, and you try to keep things from being too volatile. Businesses, like we heard it when I was introduced, and others, want certainty and predictability, and are 5 standard deviation points away from the middle usually at the end of the day in terms of how you look at your policies. So that's kind of what we try to do, and we work with our elected officials on that. We work with our businesses and our communities and our local chambers. So Senator Heiss is here, and you know, we hear a lot about in this world today about how people don't get along, right? Sure, there's policy differences, there's philosophical differences, but 80% or more of the time, they're getting stuff done for you and your communities, and they're working together. Right? We didn't have to coax anybody to put that finger on and get in a picture together. Now they're going to fight like cats and dogs on days on policy, and that's part of our system. That's part of what makes our country and our state good, is we have hard discussions, and sometimes it gets heated, right? But most of the time they're working together. Most of the time they have North Carolina's best interest. Well, excuse me, they always have North Carolina's best interest at heart. They may have different ways and different opinions how to get there. But I'm privileged to work with a number of folks, and they work together a lot, and we're better because they don't agree on everything. We're better because we get better results that way. So quick snapshot. When you look at where we are today as a country, as a state, we try to figure out, okay, what is the dynamics that's influencing how we approach things, and what are the dynamics that are in play as we look at all of these issues. So social cohesion, I had the opportunity to go to Institute for the Future a few months ago, and social cohesion is low right now. We have a lot going on, right? Our society is not as cohesive as it maybe traditionally has been. And then our trust in institutions is really low, right, in all dimensions with it. And so the issues are a lot more difficult to deal with when you have those dimensions coming together. Not good, not bad, just is, right? And so as we look to continue and maintain and build relationships for the betterment of North Carolina and our communities, we just have to realize the environment we're in and work even harder to make sure that the relationships transcend the differences and begin to put the policies in place that they're, and the chamber, our chamber, your chamber here locally, operates in the middle of those quadrants, right? Trying to make sure that people stay connected and collaborating and are talking through things. So, political headwinds, and I'm going to talk about issues that are a priority going forward. And these political headwinds are some things you're familiar with. I think the one there that I really want to focus in on is digs and daycare. So when we look now at talent supply and we look at our educational alignment around our community colleges, around our public and private universities and K-12, we know that alignment and data and making sure that our young people and our adult learners have access to the system so that they can get the education, training, and retraining that they need. The piece that's coming out of our members a lot is we really got to reimagine childcare, how we pay for it, how we look at it. We got to reimagine all of that, put our previous biases aside, and we got to do the same thing for housing. And we got to figure out how to build more housing when there's less people to build it. And so we've got to look at all of those things, but we got to reimagine how we look at it. We got to think about public-private partnerships in different ways and in areas that we haven't done that before, because no one entity can do it all of itself. We can't and shouldn't raise taxes to try and pay for everything, and we shouldn't ask businesses to do it alone. We've got to figure out who does what and how we do it, and reimagine things. Same for infrastructure, whether it be roads, which we have some experience in, or can we do public-private partnerships for water and sewer in regional ways to help communities get modern water and sewer so that companies can continue to come. Harry and I were talking a little bit earlier. Our state now has a lot in the pipeline. But where are the sites? And are the sites ready? And how? And what sizes are the sites? And what infrastructure is in those sites? Again, we can't and shouldn't raise the revenue so much that we become anti-competitive. So we have to look at different ways to reimagine and diversify how we pay for childcare, for housing, for infrastructure investments. And we're seeing an environment now that, when they do the introduction, it's always interesting. Decades of experience, it just means I'm old, right? And decades of experience, when they first wrote that, was pretty good. I was saying, oh man, I got decades of experience. Now it just means I'm old, I've got scars, and I've got grandchildren with it. But it matters because we have to reconnect with each other, I think, in ways that is harder now. The rate and pace of innovation is like nothing we've ever seen, and we'll never see again. Access to information is like nothing we've ever seen. The opportunities are endless if we don't let a soundbite get between us as people and in our communities and between our public and our private sector. We can't let that happen. But the challenges are significant, and we've not been here before. And that's okay, because there's great opportunity there, but we also have to realize there's great challenge. And I think that what I'd like to leave you with is there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be hard times. There's going to be hard conversations. There's going to be uncertainty. But if we put the relationship at the center and agree to disagree and move forward, then the ups and downs won't be so high and so low. And North Carolina and communities like the High Country and all across the state with great leadership that y'all have here and around our state are going to win. And people are going to continue to come, because we can't solve our talent problem just simply by putting more throughput. Our birth rate is not replacing our death rate and our retirement rate. It's half of what it was over 20 years ago. There's less people. It's just math. And there's more jobs and more innovation. So we have to have in-migration be important to us, right? So we've got to be able to show that our relationships are as strong and we can get through any difficult issue better than any place else, whatever that looks like, right? And continue to debate and continue to disagree, but remember we're all people in the same state. So with that,
Harry, I hope I warmed him up a little bit for you and gave some inspiration and a little bit of insight. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. This is a great view. I already texted 3 pictures to my son in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, which is going to be -9 for 3 days. And he texted me, he goes, I thought Boone prepared me, but it did not prepare me for 3 days of -9 and -20. So thank you. It's great to be back with you, and I appreciate the opportunity, David and Charles, to be here today. Thank you.
My name is Jonathan Allen, and on behalf of all the employees at Allen Wealth Management and Allen CPA, I have the pleasure of introducing our next speaker. And our next speaker is one everybody's been talking about this morning, and so I want to do a formal introduction with him in just a second, but I just wanted to share something with you very personally. As I was reviewing everything with Harry, making sure all the facts were correct and what I'm getting ready to read to you, I said, Harry, do you have a joke or something that I can share with everybody to help, just get everything up and ready for you? And he said, how about this? He said, weather forecasting exists to make economists look respectable. I thought that was true Harry Davis. That's not Jonathan Allen. That's true Harry Davis. So let me just share this with you. Dr. Davis's formal education began at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, where he received a BS in economics. He went on to receive his master's in economics from Vanderbilt University before receiving his PhD in finance from the University of Georgia. Dr. Davis is a professor of banking and economist for the North Carolina Bankers Association. As the North Carolina Bankers Association economist, Dr. Davis puts together quarterly economic forecasts that are carried by various news outlets. He is frequently interviewed throughout the year by newspapers, television, and radio stations for stories on the economy and banking. As already mentioned, Dr. Davis is a frequent speaker at state, regional, and national banking conventions on banking and economic issues. He's also an instructor for the North Carolina School of Banking. Additionally, Dr. Davis was an instructor for North Carolina Insurance Executive Management School and the South Carolina School of Banking. Dr. Davis is active in the consulting field and has presented seminars to business groups both in North Carolina and nationwide. He puts together feasibility plans, business plans, and valuations for both financial and non-financial corporations. Dr. Davis has served as a consultant for numerous startup banks in North Carolina, and recently he presented remarks to over 900 financial leaders throughout the state at the North Carolina Bankers Association Economic Kickoff, sponsored by the North Carolina Chamber. A little closer to home, he helped to start a local bank in Boone and served on its board of directors for over 20 years. Dr. Davis is presently on the board of directors at Life Store Bank, and he's on the advisory board for Western Youth Network. And most of us know him as a professor of finance here at Appalachian State University. And specific to this organization, Dr. Davis is the past chairman of the board of the Boone Area Chamber of Commerce, and he continues to serve on that board. He also authors a quarterly summary of current financial conditions as part of the Boone Area Chamber Economic Indicators Report. And finally, Dr. Davis is delivering today his 8th annual economic forecast for this event. Ladies and gentlemen, help me join welcome Harry Davis to the stage.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, and thanks for all that you do in our community, and same to you, Chuck Eiler, and all that you do for the Chamber and the community. Thanks to all our congratulations to all the award winners. Gary, we have a mutual friend, Peter Gwaltney, who's CEO of the North Carolina Bankers Association, and he said you'd give a great presentation, and you did. So thank you very much. Since you're from Albany, we arranged this weather for you, so thank you for coming and being here. You know, the two chambers do an awful lot of programs, a lot of work. David and Charles are constantly putting programs together like this year-round, all the time. Could we all give those two guys a big hand, and their staffs? Their staffs are incredible also, so thank you very much to all of them. Well, before I begin talking about the economy and economics, I like to tell a story or two. So, you know, golfers are very serious people about golf. Golfers love to get away from work, leave the office in the afternoon and head to the golf course. Don't talk in our backswing, and we'd rather play golf than do anything. Now, this past summer, I was playing out at Boone, and we were walking on the 4th fairway, and you know that Deerfield Road goes right by the 4th fairway, and all of a sudden we see a hearse, and there are cars behind it with lights on, and so we know this is a funeral procession. And so one of our guys faces the hearse, the highway, takes his hat off and puts it over his heart. And he stands like that until the procession is completely gone. Then he puts his hat back on and we walk toward the green. One of our guys says, "You know, I am really impressed that you would show that level of respect to that funeral procession." He said, "Hell, I had to. I was married to her for 47 years. Everybody in here probably knows Sam Adams. Sam Adams told me that joke. One other story. I've told this one before, but I love it, so I'm going to tell it again. A 5th grade teacher went into class one day, and she told all of her students to go home and get their parents to tell them a story that had a moral attached to it. So they all went home, and they came back the next day. Sarah raised her hand. She says, "I've got a story." Said, "My parents, we raise hens, and we have egg-laying hens, and one day we were going to the market, and we had this big basket of eggs on the front seat of the pickup truck. We hit a big bump in the road, and the eggs went flying and made a big mess." And the teacher said, "Well, what's the moral of that story?" Sarah says, "Don't put all your eggs in one basket." Teacher says, "That's a great story, Sarah." Ashley raised her hand. She says, "My parents, I've got a story. My parents raised chickens for the meat market. And one time we had a dozen eggs, and we only got 10 live chicks." And the teacher said, "Well, what's the moral of the story, Ashley?" She said, "Don't count your chickens before they hatch." Teacher says, "That's a great story, Ashley." Well, little Michael was in the back of the room, and he had been raising his hand. Teacher did not want to call on Michael. But she finally called on Michael, and she said, "Have you got a story?" And he said, "Yes, ma'am. My daddy told me this story last night about Aunt Karen. She was a flight engineer in Desert Storm, and her plane got hit. She had to bail out over enemy territory, and all she had was a bottle of whiskey, a machine gun, and a machete. She drank the whiskey on the way down so it wouldn't break. She landed right in the middle of 100 enemy troops. She killed 70 of them with the machine gun till she ran out of bullets. She killed 20 more with the machete till the blade broke, and she killed the last 10 with her bare hands." "Good heavens," said the horrified teacher, "what kind of moral did your daddy tell you about this horrible story?" "Stay the hell away from Aunt Karen when she's been drinking." Okay. All right, sometimes you just have to laugh a little bit at the economy. And all right, well, first of all, GDP growth in the 3rd quarter came in at 4.9%, a whopping 4.9%. Nobody expected that to happen. We're not in a recession. It's the most anticipated recession in history. We've been talking about it for a year and a half. We're still not in a recession. We're not even close. The National Bureau of Economic Research is the organization that determines whether we're in a recession. That's a think tank. It's not part of the government, doesn't have anything to do with it. In a post-World War II period, we've had 12 recessions, and they've lasted an average of about 10 months. Most of them have not been very severe. We had the Great Recession in 2008. We had a couple recessions in the 70s that were fairly bad. But for the most part, recessions in our country have not been that bad at all. Consumer confidence remains relatively strong. It's not terribly strong, but it's okay. I mean, consumers are not that concerned about the economy at this point in time. And here's a graph of the Consumer Confidence Index. And look at the vertical axis. You can see that the index is around 100, 105, even 110, depending on which month you look at. When that index gets down under 85, which is a long way from where it is now, that would be typically how consumers would feel when they're in a recession. So we're not in a recession. We're not even close to a recession. The housing sector is somewhat in a recession. Certainly, and I've got more numbers on that later. Certainly sales have been very slow for all kinds of reasons. The manufacturing sector is in a mild recession. So those two sectors have been suffering. The rise in interest rates by the Fed has had its intended effect. The ISM organization puts together an index of confidence for manufacturing, and they also put together one for confidence of the service sector. If it's above 50, that means the sector is expanding. If it's below 50, that means that sector is contracting. And so the ISM Manufacturing Index has been down for a year. It's been under 50 for a year. I guess put the graph, the first ISM graph up there. Look at the axis. 50 doesn't show up there. The manufacturing sector's been in the 40s for over a year. So it's clearly contracting. The next graph is the service sector. It's non-manufacturing. And you can see that look at the vertical axis. It's above 50 the entire time. So that's a sector that's been carrying the economy. With manufacturing and housing stumbling, the service sector has been doing quite well. Concerts. I mean, think about Swifty. Are you a Swifty? I'm a Swifty. One point, her concert tours only sold $1.3 billion in tickets. I did go to that movie. I'm a Swiftie. The average hour. Let me see if I don't want to skip a bullet here. Okay, here I am. Average hourly earnings. No wonder consumers feel pretty good. Average hourly earnings have been going up for 9 consecutive months. So no wonder consumers continue to feel pretty good. Even when you adjust for inflation, hourly earnings are rising. So that's in real terms. So that's a very good statistics and explains part of that confidence on the part of consumers. Wages were growing about 7% a year and a half ago. Now they're growing about 4.1. But again, in real terms, they are growing, and that's good. Low wage earners are, of course, part of that group that have really seen an appreciation in their wages. I mean, we used to pay $8 and $10 for jobs. We don't do that anymore. You can't get anybody to work at those wages. So those people have really gotten a bump in the last few years. I put the Social Security thing on there. Nobody ever talks about this. Social Security people got an 8.7% increase last year. I'm on Social Security. For all of those of you who are not on Social Security, thank you very much. Continue to work and keep those payments going to Washington so they can send them to me. Consumers have been doing very well. Consumer spending strong. Retail sales have been strong. Again, they're not wildly strong, but they are strong. The economy is being held together by consumers, and that's almost always true. We are seeing some cracks in the economy. That service sector, the ISM service graph, if you remember it, it was going down to the right, so their numbers are going down, but they're still above 50. Credit cards, consumers through November of last year, going back 12 months, had added $154 billion in credit. Delinquencies for credit cards and small business loans are starting to go up. It's not terrible, but the trend is not good. The numbers are definitely going up, okay? So some cracks are appearing in the economy. The stock market, I couldn't wait to get, quite frankly, to this. Remember last year when I was here? For those of you who actually paid attention, at one point I said there have been 19 midterm elections since World War II in the United States, 19. And in the year after the midterm election, the stock market went up every single time, 19 for 19. Well, last year was the year after a midterm election. So what did the market do last year? It went up 20 for 20. I told you. Just put your money in the stock market and look at what the market did. The Dow Jones Industrial Average up 14, S&P 500 up 24, and NASDAQ. Thank God for the Seven Sisters. I think they call them the Seven Sisters now. Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, they were up 50%, and that market was up 43%. So the stock market did very well. As Jonathan and I noted before we ate, Thank God for November and December last year, because that's when most of the increase in the stock market took place. But it was a good year. Okay, I was right last year, so what do you think? What's my prediction this year? And I don't do this. I'm just having some fun with you. If you look at the last 50 years and whether the stock market went up or down in a given year, it goes up much more than it goes down. In other words, it's not even close. Many more years it goes up than it goes down. So by saying I think the market's going to go up, I'm just playing the odds, and I'll probably be right. And in fact, my batting average on that's probably going to be, it might even be better than some of my economic predictions. Did I say that out loud? I didn't mean to. I've got another graph. Well, first of all, cash is back. Why did I put that on that bullet? Because you can get 5% for cash. You can get 5.5% for cash, perhaps. Interest rates were so low for so long, and in the beginning in March of 2022, and for 15 months, the Fed raised rates over 500 basis points, over 5%, to where you can now get 5% on your money, putting it in the bank, putting it in Treasury securities, putting it in a money market mutual fund. Prior to that time of them running up interest rates, you could have put it in any of those places or under your mattress, and you would have gotten the same rate of return, nothing. So that's why I put cash is back. It is back right now. Now, the next graph is the Fed funds rate going back 14 years. Let's look at that for a minute. On the extreme right-hand side, that's the Fed raising interest rates. So they started raising them in March 22, and they raised them 525 basis points. Between that time and going all the way back to the Great Recession, interest rates were zero except for 2018. So for about 12, 14 years, you couldn't get anything for cash or for short-term investments. Interest rates came down, mortgage rates came down. So probably half the people in this room refinanced your mortgage to lower your mortgage payment, which made perfect sense. You may have continued to pay the same mortgage payment or doubled it in an attempt to pay off your house early. A lot of people did that. But virtually everybody got into the act of refinancing because interest rates were so low. You may have bought a second home. It was a great time to buy a second home. Buy a bigger home. It would have been a good time to have done that. Or you put your money in the stock market. Either place you put it turned out to be an extremely wise decision, certainly over the time period shown in that graph. Think about buying a house, and you get a 3 or 4% mortgage, and the price of the house goes up 6, 8, or 10%. There have been years in the recent years when it's gone up more than 10%, but let's use 10%. Let's say you own roughly the average house in the United States. The average house is about $500,000. It's actually a little less than that, but not much. That means that the price of that house is going to go, if it goes up 10%, that's $50,000. That's $1,000 a week. That means while you're sitting at home at night in your recliner, fighting to stay awake, watching the TV, your house is going up in value $100 a day. That's pretty good return for sitting at home watching television. Now, of course, you got to put in taxes and insurance and all that stuff, but it still wouldn't reduce it all that much. It's still an incredible opportunity, but the numbers that are important there are the 3, 4, or 5 versus 10. It's going up much faster than the cost of the money you borrowed. So that's got to be nothing but good. I put not only did we as consumers refinance and lower our rate, everybody was into this. I put Blackstone on the slide, not BlackRock. BlackRock's an entirely different company. Blackstone's a huge private equity firm. And in 2008 and 2009, guess what they did? They went around the United States buying up every house in foreclosure. They bought up thousands of houses. Why? Because housing prices actually went down a little bit in 2008, 9, and 10. So they knew they were going to go up. Housing prices can only go up over long periods of time. So they bought thousands of houses in the United States. They were even criticized for all the houses that they bought because they were taking so many houses off the market. But they were obviously very smart. And then look at, there's a bullet. Home, if you own your house with no mortgage, you outright own it, that number went from 34, you can see the dates, 34% to 40%. Houses are owned outright, no mortgage. With the rates coming down, people doubled up their payments, paid off their house. And there is something nice about not having a mortgage. 25 years ago, I did my own taxes, and I was doing my taxes, and you get the statement from the bank that says, here's your mortgage interest, and I looked at the number. It was incredibly low. And so I said, honey, do you have any idea why our mortgage interest is so low now? And she said, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, I paid off the house. I said, you did? I said, well, why'd you do that? She said, well, I got tired of licking the stamps and licking the envelope and writing those checks. Back then you had to lick stamps. So she just paid off the house for the heck of it. Actually, I had told her I wanted to be debt-free by the time I was 50 years old, and that year I was 50. So I made it. So that was pretty slick on her part. There's a graph of net worth. What does that graph show us? It shows us where's your net worth? It's in your house and it's in your 401k. It's in two places. Some of it's in other places, but basically it's in those two places. So the graph on net worth is a sign of what's happened to those two things. The stock market's relentless, going up, and housing prices are relentless, going up. If you look over on the extreme right-hand side of the graph, you can see the pandemic. It dips down a little bit. Then it goes back up. Then it's down just a touch. The last 2 months of last year, November and December, aren't on there. If they were, it would turn and go back up again to the highest level in history. So in terms of net worth, we're doing pretty well in this country, as shown very clearly right there. Let me talk about the Fed some. The rate of inflation was 9%. Now it's 3.5%, depending on which index you want to use. Is it bad? Well, prices have increased more since the pandemic than they did in the 10 years prior to the pandemic. So we didn't have any inflation forever. And so we got some over the last year and a half. And so now we're having to adjust to that. Is it the price, the level of prices or price increases that bothers people? Isn't it the level of prices? I mean, the rate of inflation is coming down, so the rate of increase in prices is going down. But when they do polls, people are still upset about inflation. It's the level of prices, because everybody in this room remembers what it costs to buy bread or milk or eggs or beef or chicken or whatever 3 years ago or 4 years ago, or what your son or daughter's apartment rent is today relative to what it was 3 or 4 years ago. So people certainly are concerned about the level of prices, not so much the rate of increase. The Fed raises interest rates in an attempt to slow down the economy. Their target inflation rate, and you all know it, it's 2%. They want to drive the rate of inflation down to 2%. So they keep their foot on the brake, keep trying to slow down the economy. I wish they would learn to live with 2.5% or 3%. Then they could let up on the gas pedal and lower interest rates, let the economy have some more room to breathe, and let us have faster economic growth. I would like to see that, but they are committed to lowering the rate of inflation to 2%. Whenever the Fed does something, it takes months. There are tremendous lags. It takes 10, 12, 14 months before you get to a recession, at least in the post-World War II experience. We're at 14 months right now, and we're not in a recession, and a recession is not imminent. This time, after raising rates at the greatest rate in 40 years, we're still not in a recession. And that's why all the economists got it wrong. So what's different this time? And don't you know what's different? Think of all the money being thrown at the economy and at us through fiscal policy, through the government. Whether it's the CARES Act, the CHIPS Act, the PPP program, the ERC program, most of the businesses in this room, I'll bet you got money under ERC. The infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion, that money is now beginning to be spent. It takes 2 years to build anything in the United States, and it's now beginning to be spent. So when you throw that much money at an economy, how could you have a recession? And so I think, for me personally, that's the difference. Now, let me talk about real estate a little bit. The National Association of Home Builders, they also have a confidence index, and their index has not been doing very well either. It's been going down, and it's been under 50. They use 50 as the threshold level also. It's been under 50 about half the months for the last 24 months and been going down about half that time also. So they haven't felt very good about building houses in our country. Housing starts are at the lowest level since 2009, and that's a long time ago, and have fallen to around 1.45, 1.5 million units. What's wrong with that? Well, what's wrong with that is in the 80s and the 90s and the early 2000s, we built 1.8, 1.9, even 2 million units a year. Now we're trying to build 1.4, 1.5. So if you want to know why housing's not affordable, it's so simple. It's one thing: we don't build enough houses. In the Great Recession, so many people in the industry quit. They just simply left it. A lot of them got hung up with houses they had spec'd, and they lost. They lost their shirt. They quit. They retired. They went into some other line of business. And so now we don't, as Gary mentioned, we don't have anybody to build houses. I mean, we need far more people with those skills if we expect to build houses to the extent that we need them. I told you last year we're 5 million housing units short in the United States. This year, it's still 5. We have not dented that number at all, not one bit. Here's a graph of starts, and it's pitiful. I mean, we got all the way down to 1.3. We're around 1.45 right now in the latest month. But those numbers are terrible. Again, if you go back and look at the 80s or the 90s. If you look at house prices, if you look at the Case-Shiller Price Index, it sets new records almost every month. The housing prices in the United States peaked in the summer of 22, in June of 22, and then last August, September, and October, the numbers blew through the summer of 22. So prices are at all-time high, never been that high. As of the fall of last year, so says the Case-Shiller Index. And I looked at the National Association of Realtors numbers just to see if they were the same, and they are. Tremendous increase in housing prices for the last 2 years, but particularly through last year in 2022. Existing home sales. Wow, that's where the bottom has really fallen out. We don't have existing home sales anymore. People will not put their house on the market for good reason. In the housing market, you're either locked in or you're locked out. If you're in a house, you're locked in. You can't sell it or you won't put it on the market because you don't want to swap your 3 or 4% mortgage for a 7. So you're locked in. If you're trying to buy a house, be a home owner, home buyer, you're locked out because interest rates are so high and the price of the house is so high. So in real estate, I keep hearing people say you're either locked in or you're locked out. Existing home sales started going down in the spring of 2022. They've crashed since then. Let's see. I did the locked in, locked out. Do the graph of existing home sales. Look at that. We used to sell 5.5 million existing homes in the United States. 5.5 million. Now we're selling 4. It's down 1.5 million units. On that, well, not on that graph, but if over a 2 to 3 year period, it's down 1.5 million units. That's absolutely phenomenal. Which is why new homes as a percentage of inventory of houses used to be about 10%. And so 90% of this inventory was existing homes. Well, now new homes has risen to 30% because we don't put existing homes on the market. So affordability is at the worst level in 40 years, no matter how you want to measure it, and not improving at all. And there's not anything being done to improve it. Gary mentioned water and sewer lines. Until we start doing capital projects, start doing bond issues, and running water and sewer lines, everything else we're doing, yeah, you will tweak it a little bit. We built 3 more houses. I mean, that's not going to solve the problem. We got to have density in housing. So we got to run water and sewer lines. Otherwise, we're just not going to get there. What if mortgage rates continue to come down? Will housing become more affordable? No. There's so many people standing on the sideline waiting to buy a house, they can't get in the game because they can't afford an 8% or a 7% mortgage rate, or maybe even a 6.5%. So they're waiting. So if mortgage rates go down another 0.5%, another percent, they're going to all run onto the field to buy a house. What's going to happen to the prices of houses? It's just going to keep going up. Housing's not going to become more affordable anytime soon until we have houses for sale on every corner. And that's not going to happen until we build them. So the unemployment rate in the United States is 3.7%. You can see that. That's the December number that just came out a week ago, a little over a week ago. We're at full employment at 5%. If we're under 4%, that's incredible. So we clearly aren't in any kind of recession when you've got the unemployment rate under 4%. The labor participation rate actually went up last year. We actually drew people into the labor force. That's the first time that'd been done in years. The labor force participation rate's been going down mainly because males have been leaving the labor force. And the labor force would have crashed if it weren't for females coming into the labor force. But even so, the labor force participation rate's been going down. Last year, finally, it went up about 2%. And that's good, and we certainly need more of that. Unfilled jobs, I don't change that bullet anymore. It's somewhere between 9 and 10. Every month it changes. I'm tired of changing the bullet. It's somewhere between 9 and 10 million unfilled jobs in the United States. Bank of America came out about a year and a half ago, and we're real proud to make an announcement. We're going to pay $20 for entry-level people at the bank. 4 months later, they came out with another announcement. We're going to raise it to 23. They can't find anybody. Every business, whether it's small, whether it's a restaurant here in Boone, or it's Bank of America, is struggling to find workers and struggling to try to figure out just how much do I have to pay to get people to come to work. It's a struggle, and it's a struggle for everybody. A few things about North Carolina and then Watauga County. Unemployment rate 3.5% in November. The December number's not out yet. We've had tremendous population growth in North Carolina, not through babies, but through immigration, people moving to North Carolina. We're the 3rd or 4th fastest growing state in the United States. And that's good. That's good for economic development. If we're shrinking, we wouldn't have very much economic growth at all. The population growth is extremely uneven. Some counties grow. Most counties are losing population. Ours is growing. I'll address that in a minute. But it's very uneven, and we need to do more to get more economic growth and more people to stay in rural areas. But it will take a commitment by government of all state government, county governments, federal government to help that happen. I have the number 1 in business on the slide. I was sure I knew Gary had mentioned, so I won't go over that again. When you look at our state government, we have a great rainy day fund. Our pension funds are pretty much funded. I mean, we do a lot of great things in this state. Our tax policy, we've lowered tax rates for corporations, for individuals. That's why, those are some of the reasons, I'm sure, why we were picked number 1. Our problem, and is going to be workforce. If we've got mega deals, if we've got companies that are looking at North Carolina to make $1 billion investment, our struggle is going to be workforce, having the workers to fill those jobs, workers with the right skills, workers that have received the correct type of training, which means universities, junior colleges, technical schools are going to all have to get nimble at figuring out the type of education we need to provide to certain types of workers as they go forward. Watauga County, let's talk about the county a little bit. Our unemployment rate was 2.8% in November. Only 2 counties in the state of North Carolina had a lower unemployment rate than North Carolina, than Watauga County. We can flat put people in jobs. If you look at the county metrics, and the Chamber and I put together an analysis of the county metrics every quarter, and if you look at occupancy tax or sales tax or real estate sales, look at whatever you want to look at, most counties in North Carolina would be envious of Watauga County. I mean, our numbers, our metrics, economic metrics, are extremely strong, and we should be proud of that. We have population growth. Watauga County actually grows population-wise. The contiguous counties around us are either flat or losing population. Most counties in western North Carolina and most counties in eastern North Carolina are losing population. So we are very lucky to be in a county where population is actually growing. At least some people would agree with that. I think it's a good thing for economic development and other things. The Commerce Department puts together an analysis. They call it their distress, level of distress. And every county's ranked from 1 to 100. 100's the best, 1's the worst. And they break it into 3 tiers. The top 20 counties, the next 40, and the last 40. So 20, 40, 40. We're in the 40%, the 40 group, the first 40 group. We're at 78. We're in tier 2, but our rank is 78. If we moved up 2, we'd be in the top tier. So our county does very well relative to other counties in North Carolina in terms of this particular stress index that is used by the Department of Commerce. You can look at the numbers, population, we grow, so our number there is good. Property tax per capita is extremely good, we're 91 there. Where we get population is right in the middle, 47. Where we get hurt, of course, is median household income. You know, a lot of our jobs are tourism, and those are lower paying jobs, so it's hard for us to have the high paying jobs that you would get in a big city where you have big companies with layers of management. We don't have that, so we're roughly in the middle on median household income. Unemployment rank is 87th. I'm actually surprised it's not higher than that because we really do have a very low unemployment rate most of the time. Now, let me end by talking a little bit about what I see for the future. And it provided this is okay, Charles may let me come back again next year, we'll see. GDP growth last year was about 2.5%. We don't have the fourth quarter number yet, but it's going to come in around 2.5%. This year, somewhere around 1.5%. We're going to grow slower. The economy's going to continue to slow down. We're hoping for a soft landing, and we're probably going to get that. The rate of inflation is at 3.5 now. It will go down to around 3. Might get a little bit under 3, but we won't get to 2 by the end of this year. That's not going to happen. But somewhere around 3, maybe a little better. When's the Fed going to reverse course and start lowering interest rates? Well, most analysts think they'll lower them 75 basis points this year, maybe in 25 basis points. 25 basis points is 0.25%, so 0.75% cuts starting maybe in May. The problem is this is an election year. They can't cut rates in September and October. It'll be viewed as being very political and trying to elect or not elect one of the candidates. So the Fed will have to be very careful lowering interest rates. If they're going to do it, they better get on with it because the fall will not be the time to do it. I would love to see them cut rates down to 4.25%. I think rates are too high. It's too restrictive. I think they should give the economy more room to breathe. But I don't think they'll do that. The housing market, existing home sales, home prices, starts. We bottomed out on existing home sales and starts. I think those numbers will get a little bit better. Not much. It's pretty much just going to go sideways. Housing prices aren't going to increase tremendously, but they will probably increase. I know analysts, some forecasters are forecasting a price drop. I don't think that's going to happen. I think the housing market is literally going to go sideways this year, mainly because the GDP is going to go sideways this year, so it will track the overall economy. A soft landing. I think we're going to have a soft landing. Every month that goes by and we don't enter into a recession increases the chance dramatically that we're going to have a soft landing. That is, the economy's going to slow down, get us 2 to 2.5% inflation, but we never have a recession. We never have negative GDP growth, at least not for a couple quarters or 3 quarters or whatever. I think the Fed may actually pull this off. I think to help do that, they ought to be lowering interest rates a little bit sooner, and maybe that'll happen. Regardless, North Carolina and Watauga County will do better than the nation. We're more flexible. Our state is strong. We have the population growth. And so North Carolina will do better than the nation this year economically, and Watauga County will continue to do well. Neither will have a recession this year along with the along with the national economy. It will not be in recession. So I think all of that's pretty positive. Employment's strong. Consumer spending is strong, continues to keep the economy going. Real hourly earnings continue to grow. The stock market has done well. So all things considered, I think all of that's very positive, and that ends my prepared remarks. Thank you very much.
Folks, we've got time for just a few questions here. Patrick and Megan have microphones. If you'd like to ask something, just raise your hand, and we'll have one of them come to you. And we can include questions for Gary in here at this point in time as well. I got one in the back from Omer. Patrick's making his way over there.
As always, Harry, I have one. The numbers that you report on housing are really good for folks our age. But what about the people who are in their 20s or early 30s? It looks devastating as far as I can see.
You're absolutely right, Omer, and thank you for your question. First-time home buyers are struggling mightily. You know, unless parents are going to give first-time home buyers $30,000 or $50,000, how could they possibly buy a house? I mean, I don't see how it's possible. And I just heard on Bloomberg this morning that there's an index that they look at for people who rent, and people renting apartments are struggling mightily making rent payments on their apartments. That's how much those things have gone up. Prices of housing and rental payments. I mean, rental payments went up 20% in 2021. I mean, it's unbelievable to have that in Charlotte. It's impossible. It's incredible to have that kind of an increase. So it's really hard for first-time home buyers. It's really hard.
Any other questions?
I think if Gary was up here, there'd be a lot more questions.
All right, well, we'll have both of our presenters, sorry. Sneak one in on you.
Just curious about the headlines. You mentioned birth rates are falling. I think in the U.S. we're not replacing ourselves. That's happening in Europe, especially in the East, China, for example, Japan. Can you just talk a little bit about what's occurring worldwide and where the U.S. is headed? And then, you know, thankfully Watauga County maybe doesn't have that issue, but just curious your thoughts on birth rate.
This would have been a good one for Gary. Just change one letter. Okay. Well, we know birth rates are going down, and it's true all over the world. I mean, China shot themselves in the foot by having the one kid policy. Japan's even worse. Italy and Japan are the two worst countries on earth for the aging population. The United States is actually not nearly as bad as Europe or Japan and other parts of the world because of what? Illegal immigrants. We got to get immigrants into the country. We need to find out a way to do it legally. Goodness gracious, you'd think you could put 10 people in a room and come up with immigration policy that makes sense. How can we not do that? We can put people on the moon, but we can't come up with a sensible immigration policy. That's the way to keep a young labor force in this country. It's the way to keep the population growing. It's a way to bring people into this country that do a lot of jobs that a lot of us don't want to do. So that's the best way to deal with this. We can't do it with birth rates because I don't think the government could throw enough tax breaks to couples having babies that it would impact that at all. People simply wait too long to marry and then wait so long that they figure they can only get away with one kid. And I know I'm sort of making this up tongue in cheek, but I think that's pretty much what goes on. And so that's one of the reasons that the birth rate's so low in this country.
Your birth expert, Harry Davis. We'll have one more question, and then our presenters will be here after our remarks have concluded for anything else you might want to have. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for taking my question. I live in Blowing Rock, and as we know, in Watauga County, the service industry is big. And you said the service industry is really driving our economy. But when you look at the service industry, those are some of the lowest paying jobs. Affordability of housing has really impacted available workers, people who are available to work in our county. And it seems that this is a sort of a circular catch-21 that we're in. And Dr. Davis, I just wanted to get your thoughts about this.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, we've all seen the help wanted signs in every business in Boone, every business in Blowing Rock. We can't find workers. I told you about Bank of America. They just keep raising the salary, hoping at some point they'll actually be able to get people. And up here in the high country, we know that if you go over to Highway 221 at 7:30 in the morning, which way are all the cars going? They're lined up coming to Boone. We have to import our workers. We have to get them from Ashe County and Avery and Lenore, Wilkesboro. We have to bring them here because there is very little affordability of housing. And the jobs that you mentioned, they are low paying. And everybody's trying to adjust. Everybody's trying to figure it out. How much do I have to pay to get workers so I can get this restaurant open and keep it running? And to do that, how much am I going to have to raise prices? Now, I know that I've recognized, and I assume you have too, restaurant prices have gone up in Boone and Blowing Rock a good bit in the last 12 months. I do not begrudge those restaurants anything. They should go up. They've got to pay their workers more. They're going to have higher prices. There's no way around it. So I actually applaud them for doing it. I've actually thanked a restaurant for raising their prices. I said, you should have raised it a long time ago. So it's a continuing problem, and it's going to continue to be a problem up here. What I don't understand is why more students don't take these jobs. Students aren't working that much anymore for some reason. I'm not sure why that is. But we used to have that steady workforce of students, and they're not there now. I don't know what they're doing. Somebody must be giving them a lot of money.
How about one more last round of applause for our presenters, Gary Salamido and Harry Davis. A couple of quick notes for you. One of them, as it relates to the town of Boone. You know, we talk about why things cost the way they do and how things are operated. You may have seen the town of Boone is getting ready to start a comprehensive plan review process. And next week, they'll have their first public gathering at Hardin Park School, I believe at 6 o'clock on the 18th. I would encourage you all, business leaders in this community, to be involved in that process as we talk about what building is going to look like, infrastructure improvements are going to look like. A lot of the policy that is set forward in the UDO and will be for the next decade plus is going to come out of public engagement in that process. So if you've got ideas, thoughts, certainly our chambers will be involved in these conversations in our individual communities. I would encourage you to be involved in the process and stay tuned to your chamber report emails for dates and times on those meetings. Do want to thank another one of our presenting sponsors here today. You may have noticed on your table you have some cards from 444. Kevin Troyer and Lily and their entire family business, always supportive of this event, and we certainly appreciate them for doing that again. And after 21 years of being in business now in the High Country, they're proud to offer consulting services to their clients. That's now been formally defined by the business. Their consulting team can help you plan and outline next steps for bringing clarity to buying, selling, and maintaining your home or commercial space. 444 can provide expertise and data to allow you to make educated and informed decisions about those processes. So please take those brochures with you. If you'd like to learn more about that, I know Kevin is here with us today, and there's a QR code right on there. You can find out more information. So do thank them for supplying that service. Do want to thank again Peak Insurance for being our title sponsor once again. This year, we also thank our friends at 444 Appalachian Commercial Real Estate, Allen Wealth Management, DMJPS, Frontier Natural Gas, and Skyline National Bank. When you see these business leaders in the community, thank them for this. This effort, as you can imagine, takes a lot of work. And because of their support of this event, we're able to put together the list of speakers and the opportunities that we bring to you each and every year. Same for those corporate table partners, Blue Ridge Realty and Investments, Caldwell Community College and Technical Institute, one of our great workforce partners right here in the community, ECRS, Elk River Consulting Company, Life Store Bank and Insurance, Mass General Store, Maltox, and Skyline Skybest. All of those folks helped make today possible. And last but not least, I know that Charles mentioned a few of these folks. I want to thank our event partners, Rigid AV, Ryan Gilbert and his entire team, the Goldsmith, you all know Tori well. She supplied the plaques for our winners. And Grandview Events and Catering, Chuck Ford, Devin Rodel, and Mandy Hood do a fantastic job helping us organize this. They even brought some ornamental snow for you outside just to make this the postcard event that it is. So we hope that this has got your year started off to a great start. We look forward to being along with you in the process. So on behalf of Charles and his team and our team, I thank Carrie and the crew for everything that they've done to organize this. We bid you farewell. We'll talk to you again soon. Have a great 2024.